What's up, everybody? I'm David Hain. Welcome to episode number 304 of the A2D from Addict to Disciple podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, please like, subscribe, follow, and share the link with your friends. If you'd like to get our curriculum, you can get the paperback or ebook of From Ashes to Destiny on Amazon. Today's episode, number 304, is entitled Never Again Park. This is going to be a walkabout through Never Again Park, and I'm taking the walkabout with several wives, girlfriends, babies, mamas of people who were affected by addiction in their loved one. And we're going to see how they react to reaching that point of saying, I'm not doing this ever again, never again. And as we're at the beginning of the park, there's several pieces of information in the reading for us before we start the walkabout. So here they are. First one says, many of you may have felt that just when you decided to never let your loved one hurt you or anyone again, they had the nerve to come to you and say, I'm ready to make amends. I'm going through the 12 steps and I'd like to make amends with you. And that created a lot of panic, a lot of emotions, a lot of doubts and fears and questions. Because when we see that we're not our loved one's chosen person or option, the emotions start stirring. And these emotions can be feelings of rejection, hurt, and inadequacy, questioning one's self-worth or feeling unseen or unappreciated, feelings of jealousy and self-doubt. We may even start to question our own qualities and whether we're good enough for anybody. So let's look at these negative emotions as we go on this walkabout in Never Again Park. You ready? Okay, here's the first sign, and it says, the first set of emotions we want to look at is rejection and hurt. Being the not chosen one often leads to deeply painful feelings of rejection. So when I asked the ladies I'm walking with for responses, David, I identify totally with this one. If my loved one comes back and says, I'm ready to make amends, I think what I need to say is, how could you choose drugs over me? That's the worst kind of cheating. How do you make amends for that? David, I agree with that one, because for me, I just want to say, you apologized for the outcome, for your consequences, but you never apologized for the choices that you made in your addiction. Sure. Hard topic right at the beginning. I appreciate the honesty that you ladies are sharing. Let's walk down to the second sign and see what it says. Second sign says the topic here is insecurity and self-doubt. It says we might start questioning our own value and whether we possess the qualities that make us desirable or worthy of ever being chosen. Sure, David, I gave it all of my body, all of my soul, all of my dreams, and that wasn't enough. How do I find anything but insecurity and self-doubt with all of that going on? And the second lady said, David, I just want to say to my guy, was I ever good enough for you, or was it all a lie? How do I say anything good about you to your children when all I'm feeling is self-doubt because of the stuff you did to me? Wow. Let's go down to the next sign, and it says jealousy and comparison. We all can experience different things and have different feelings triggered because of what was done to us. And it can be jealousy towards the person or thing that your guy chose rather than you. Maybe you even started comparing yourself to them. Ladies, your reaction? David, I just want to say I just spent too many years wondering who you were sleeping with. My guy was sleeping with anyone who gets high with them, and I was just supposed to deal with that. But really, how do I ever process that? That he would just keep saying, well, it didn't mean anything, it was just sex. Wow. I agree with that, David, because it's actually insane that I thought if I had a better body, you'd stay home with me. That's what I'd say to my guy. I agree, David. I tried everything. I even watched porn with my baby's daddy, but I could never please him in bed. Yeah, I was comparing the whole time, and I think I'm still stuck with those deep ingrained hurts, feelings, pains, distress of feeling that I was never good enough in love making. Wow. Let's go down to the next sign. And it says, this one's loss of confidence. And it's saying because the addiction happened repeatedly and constantly, the distress happened repeatedly. And it led to a steady self decline in self esteem and a sense of powerlessness. Ladies, can you react to that? Yeah, David, I realized that it was time for me to just give up on what I need as a woman and focus on being the best mom I can because I still had his kids to raise and they needed a good mom. Wow. Next lady jumps right in and says, David, I hope that would be fulfilling for me because I'm in that same boat. I've got the kids and he's living the life in rehab and saying how much he's changed. But the kids are all I have left. I had my dreams, my hopes, my plans, my future stolen by his addiction. How do I find self esteem when all that was stolen? How do I find the power inside to get myself back again? Wow. Let's go down to the next sign. And this one says emotional distress. The experience of being affected by a loved one's addiction leads to lots of emotional distress. Feelings of anger, anxiety, sadness, depression, true emotional distress. David, this one hits me spot on because I just want to say to my baby's dad that they're the one with the problem and they're the one who always had the problem, but now I'm the one going to a therapist. What do I do with that? I agree, David. I'm so mad at myself for giving him another chance and another and another. I should have listened to my parents and my friends who warned me about him. Wow. Yeah, what do we do when we know we've ignored the advice of our birth family and our friends, maybe even people who've been down the same road that we were on as the affected loved one? And we just were trusting all the lies that they were telling us. Okay, we're coming towards the end of the park here. And the next sign says potential for growth. And here the park officials wrote, while the immediate experience and the lingering effects can be very, very painful, it's also an opportunity for self-reflection and personal growth. We have to realize that not being chosen by an addict didn't diminish our worth, and that we can choose to focus on our own self-love and self-acceptance. Whoa, David, how do I even get there? How do I say it didn't diminish my self-worth? It really did. And I guess my starting point that I'm gathering from this walkabout is to realize I'm just done. I'm done with him. I'm done with his sorry excuses. I'm done with the manipulation of his narcissistic behavior and his addiction. And I need to start survival mode. And if I can find survival mode, maybe I can begin to focus on self-acceptance and find growth. But to me, survival mode is very different than growth mode, and I'm not sure I see the potential for growth yet. I agree, David. I don't have a clue about how to grow, but I do know I was dying a slow death because of his addiction. Wow. David, I just want to say he stole 2 decades of my maturity as a woman and as a person. And here I am in my mid 40s trying to figure out how to start all over again, how to go back to the innocence I had and the hopes I had in my 20s. Wow. Ladies, I want to thank you for all the things you've shared in this. Let's go down to the end of the park and see what it has to say for us. And we get to the end of the park and it says, we're hoping to send you off on a good note. And we have 2 quotes for you as you struggle with your survival mode, with your growth mode, and focus on personal growth. The first is a quote by Seneca, who said, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. And the second quote is by C.S. Lewis, and it says, you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. Shaw, David, I think I needed to hear that because I have to realize that I did have a beginning 20 years ago with the wrong guy, with the wrong dreams, with fuzzy plans, and with the insane belief that I could love him enough to have him end his addiction. But I can't go back and change that beginning. And as C.S. Lewis says here on the sign, I can start where I am today and change the ending. Thanks for listening to this episode of the A to D from Addict to Disciple podcast. If you were saying that's me as you listened, or if you were saying, wow, I didn't know I inflicted all that pain on my loved one, then I think it's time to reach out, join a group, talk to someone, and be able to move forward both as the affected person by someone's addiction and the infected person in their addiction. You can message me on the link in this podcast or by email at davidfroma2d@gmail.com or go to my website www.froma2d.org and click on the contact page. Keep listening to future podcast episodes, and as always, stay safe and stay resilient.